Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Yu. I'm the Principal Application Experience Architect at Kemp Technologies. And we have a great guest with us today. We have Nick Smiley. Nick is our technical team lead. And we're going to be talking about quite a few things on the heels of a video that was done by Network Chuck that's available on YouTube, talking about the Kemp load balancer and all the cool things that it can do. We're going to put the link here in the video and also in the comment section of the chat of anything that we talk about. So again, this is going to be really cool with some follow-up discussions about some of the questions that people have been raising about the load balancing functionality of the LoadMaster product from Kemp and what it can do and how it works. So Nick, hey, first, welcome to this live chat.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
And second, again, this Network Chuck thing, it's kind of blown up quite a bit in terms of number of views, number of people contacting Kemp and downloading the software and playing with it. And a lot of questions have been coming up. I mean, I'm sure that you and your team have been overwhelmed by all the things that have been coming in from this.
Absolutely. And that's putting it lightly, honestly. I've been here for almost 6 years, and I've never seen our community forums as popular as they've been in the past month and a half since that video came out, which is great. So the more exposure, the more people using it, the better, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excuse me. And it's awesome. So let's come up to these things that we're talking about here. And the first one that we're going to talk about is people have been saying that they've been getting errors on their system sometimes, the messages in their logs, something about call home. So they're getting errors about the Kemp LoadMaster load balancer doing a call home connection failing and things like that. And I just want you to set the record straight. Explain to me, explain to the people, and you can see in the chat again the link about this call home and the policies about what it is. You can get more detail. But Nick, what is this call home feature? Is it Big Brother? Are we snooping on all these customers' networks? What is going on?
No. So we're not snooping on the networks, of course. What we're snooping on is the LoadMaster itself. And so what we do is we gather a bunch of data. And what we're really looking for is just how our users and customers are using the product, so we know what better to expect, how better to support them in the future as well. And that's really all it's there for. It's just to get a better idea what the majority of our customers are using. So no Big Brother or anything like that, nothing crazy.
So I don't have to put on my tinfoil hat. I don't have to worry about Kemp trying to extract personal data or data coming from the communications that are going across the load balancer. Can you give me some examples of the type of data that it is collecting and why do we do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we gather a few simple things of like how many connections are just going through your LoadMaster, how many SSL transactions per second are going through there. If you're using some of our features, which we're going to go over in a little bit later too, it's good to know if we put a new feature out, if people are actually using it or not, because that's really what it's all about at the end of the day.
Awesome. So that means we're collecting the data not because we want to snoop on your network and really extract information. What we're doing is we're collecting information about how the load balancer, how this LoadMaster load balancer is performing, what functions is it doing, and how it's handling them and is working well, so that we on the back end can make changes in terms of the future development of the product to make it better, to make it more efficient, to fix possibly errors or bugs that we might be seeing from this data, and also get some direction in terms of what is everybody using, what features are people taking advantage of, to make sure we put the proper focus on that. Is that about right?
That's 100% right. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like you said, we can put all the products in we want, but at the end of the day, customer use it, people use it. We have to give them what they want and what they need to better, use the product, basically. So, and that's just that's the best way we can do that, really, because it's seamless. You never really know about it, and that's about it. It's good.
Awesome. So everybody that's using the Kemp LoadMaster load balancer, especially the people that are using the free version of the Loadmaster. Call home is nothing insidious. It's something to get us more information to make the product better for you. So take advantage of it. Have, if possible, your Loadmaster connected to the internet so that we can collect this information, and it'll make a better product and a better solution for everybody in the community. Awesome. Greatly appreciate that. So I'm going to move on to this next question that comes up quite a bit, especially with new users of the load balancer, and talking about the features and things, and some things that we were kind of starting to allude to, Nick. One thing that a lot of people do is they want to put a web server or a pool of web servers behind the load balancer, and the web server is doing port 80, which is HTTP, which is your standard web traffic, and they're also doing port 443, which is SSL or TLS, depending upon how old you are in terms of what you call it. And that is encrypted traffic. And for the Loadmaster load balancer to be able to do both on the same virtual service, it's not maybe as straightforward as some people might think. There are some little things you have to do to make it work right. Can you give me a little detail about that, Nick?
Right. So exactly what you just said. We have a lot of people coming in and they want to use HTTPS because they want to encrypt the traffic. They want the traffic encrypted, which is great, fantastic. I mean, everybody wants that. So what comes in, it comes in encrypted. We're going to decrypt that data or offload that data, as we call it here at Kemp. And then when we send that traffic actually to the server, or the real server in this scenario, we re-encrypt it back on port 443. So whether when it comes into the Loadmaster, it's encrypted, and when it leaves the Loadmaster, it's also encrypted. So what a lot of people are having trouble with sometimes is if they have that one virtual service, they have traffic that needs to be encrypted on 443 for the server, and they might also have other servers that might only work on port 80. So the challenge there is how do you get that port 81 working? Because you cannot offload, you cannot re-encrypt on the same virtual service that you also just want to SSL offload. And when I say just SSL offload, I mean where it comes in on 443 HTTPS, but then HTTP on the back end, port 80. So really what you have to do there is we do this thing we call cascading virtual services. So when you go to add the real server on port 443, instead you add another IP that you're going to create a new virtual service on. And then at that point, you create a new virtual service on port 443 again. You turn on SSL offloading only, and then you add the actual real server on port 80 on that second virtual service. So that's why it cascades, because it goes to the first virtual service, then it cascades down to the second virtual service where your real actual web server is on port 80.
Okay, so we have the virtual service, and you said we're creating the sub-virtual service, and then we can cascade the traffic path or flow through the load balancer to make sure that we have the encrypted and unencrypted traffic both managed properly going to the real servers, to the servers that we have on the back end, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. So this is really important to know. We'll put up the link for that in a second in terms of a support article that we have on talking about creating those sub VSs, those sub virtual services, and the virtual services. In the meantime, let's move on to this next question because it's very closely related and something that people, especially the home users, the lab users, the free load balancer users, want to manage and work with a lot, is this concept of when we talk about encryption, we need certificates. We need some sort of keys and things to manage the traffic that's being encrypted and the coding and decoding of the traffic between the clients and the servers and the load balancer in between. So I want to talk about the concept of certificate creation and certificate management. And the really cool thing is that recently we have done something with the Loadmaster product earlier, I believe it was earlier this year, to be able to manage the certificate management. And by the way, for that last question, the link is now on the screen and also in the chat for helping to create the sub VSs for a single IP address. So I certainly recommend that you go to that link for that previous question. So certificates, Nick, managing encryption certificates on the load balancer. What is the easiest way for us to manage this for us as users, as customers, especially for those free load balancers users? What do we recommend today?
So, free Loadmaster users, home users, I think, in my humble opinion, I think this is probably the best feature for a lot of these people. Some of them may or may not have heard of it, but it's called Let's Encrypt. And Let's Encrypt is a free certificate provider that the only gotcha to this is that if you're using it outside of the Loadmaster, it has to renew every 90 days because it expires. A lot of times certificates you can get for a year, if not more. So a lot of times if you use Let's Encrypt, you get a free cert. That's just fantastic. That's great, but it might expire. The Loadmaster takes all that hassle out for you. So there's a Let's Encrypt module on there. And basically the only few requirements is you need to be on the .53 version of the Loadmaster, which if you're deploying a Loadmaster as of today, you're already on or above that. And then 2, you need to make sure you own that FQDN that's publicly accessible. I've used it myself, honestly. I bought a cheap domain from GoDaddy for $1, and that's good for a year. I paid $1 for a whole FQDN, just mine, publicly accessible.
So that's really cool. So number one, you paid $1 for your FQDN, and for people that don't know the tech lingo, the FQDN, fully qualified domain name, that is the name that you put in the URL, like www.nicksmalley.com. I'm not saying that's your domain name. And
don't go to it.
I kind of hopefully it's not, because I don't want you to get a flood of traffic that's from all these people listening to this. But and there are versions of getting domain names potentially also for free. Like in the Network Chuck video that I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, he talks about the service that provides free domain name access. So getting the domain name and then the certificates and using Let's Encrypt to get the certificate created. That's number one, and that's free. Let's Encrypt is actually a very, very popular.
It's very popular. Tool. Very popular. And that's the great thing that Kemp did. We took that great product, that's outside of us, and we, streamlined it even better, where we automatically renew these certificates for you every X amount of days. So that way you do it once, and then really you should be good forever.
So that's the other really cool thing, is that Let's Encrypt, this popular, well-known, and has a good reputation in terms of what they do in security, because encryption is all about security and everything. You get the certificate for free, and then working with Let's Encrypt's APIs and things, the load balancer, the Loadmaster load balancer, will automatically update the certificates, because the interesting thing about these SSL TLS certificates, encryption certificates, is that they're time-based. They expire. So they might be good for a month. Typically, they're good for a year, 365 days. And after a year, they expire and you have to renew them. And the traditional method is to go manually find out which certificates are expiring, manually grab the new updated certificates and install them. With Let's Encrypt, we have a process to do that whole thing automatically without you being involved. So you get the certificate, you put it in the Loadmaster so you can do the encrypted traffic properly, and then, in the words of one of my heroes, being kind of a marketing person, Ron Popeil, you set it and forget it.
Yep.
And I have to just say this one thing. Ron Popeil just passed away recently, and again, he was one of the great infomercial marketers in this lifetime. But that's a complete side story, and I'll have a different conversation about that. But set it and forget it, where you get your certificate, and like Nick said, it's good for life. So this makes the management of your encrypted traffic so much easier. And I mean, do you have feedback on what's been happening with customers and how that feature has been accepted in the community?
I can honestly say, even for our paid customers, it was one of the most requested things that people wanted. Like people really want to use Let's Encrypt. They want automatic renewals, and people love it so far. I haven't really heard any negative feedback.
Awesome. Awesome. This is great. So I appreciate all the time that you spent, Nick. We answers, I think, some of the most common questions we've been getting on the heels of this network check video, and all the people that have been downloading and playing with the Kemp Loadmaster product. And we greatly appreciate everybody that has been out there and downloading and playing with the software. And again, we have the free version. Go to freeloadbalancer.com and you can download the free version. Go to kemp.ax and you can look at all the other things that we do with Kemp Technologies. And Nick, again, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. I always value the information that you provide us.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Look forward to our next LinkedIn Live and other videos, and we hope to talk to you all real soon. Have a great day or evening.